My dad has a litany of underlying conditions and comorbidities. He's like 80 and isn't well to start with. I have friends with cancer, going through chemo, other friends in kind of dicey places where the medical care is really poor. And like you, I have a lot of people in a lot of places that I worry about a little bit. Some of you are already losing people. There are people in my circle whose grief I'm carrying because they've lost someone, are losing people still. Another lamentation in my heart is the knowledge that this is getting into the third world, and it will burn through the third world. Compromised medical systems and no way to socially distance, like people who are already on the margins, already impoverished, already underneath the heel of systems, just helpless. And I even lament my helplessness, my inability to help them. One of the things that I notice I'm grieving is just the number. The death toll keeps climbing. Sometimes I feel like I can look across the valley and like just feel the number climbing, feel the people dying. And beyond the grief for the dead and the dying, there's sort of just the less serious but constantly present grief for the life we had before this started. Some people say we'll bounce right back. Data don't seem to support that. Life's going to return to a new normal soon. And then once there's a vaccine or a herd immunity, then there'll be a new normal. But it won't be the old normal. And what's already happening as the new wears off of lockdown, and we realize that when we come out of the cave in a few months or a few years, some people won't, or some parts of life won't, like buffet restaurants. There are some things that just won't be the same. And there are some losses that will be irreparable. And we know that. We know that in our bones. That's an inescapable truth. So down in our bones, where we know that Jesus is King, and that God is sovereign, and that all things work together for our good, we know that inside that all things are terrible things, like the loss of people we love and the inability to ever have a funeral. Room must be made for grief and lament. For two reasons. One, it's part of our experience, and we have to be honest about it. There's no way to live a real life with a real God and real people with our real hearts in the real world if we cannot embrace the really bad parts and give a real voice to the real pain and the real loss. But the other reason room has to be given for grief and lament is that it's there. For some of us, it's there really loud. For some of us, we've had a lot of grief and lament in the last couple of years, and it's easy to get there fast because we're not quite done grieving the last loss. But it can take over. It can either take over totally and lay you low and put you in the dark where it's always cloudy even when the sun's out, or it can take over more quietly and just fill up all the space, like a bad smell or a miasma, a mood that takes up all the room a little bit. We have to learn how to create spaces in our days, or at least in our weeks, where we notice the things that we feel like we're losing, or the things that we fear we will lose. We name the losses, or the things we've lost, like some personal freedom, or the sense of security, or that thing in our hearts that we got from high-fiving and saying hello here in Spain, kissing people, like that's gone. It's gone for a while. It's gone for a long while. We have to notice that and give it a voice, give it a name. We've got to find ways to grieve. There are ways that have been given to us. There are psalms of lament. They're not about COVID-19. They're about enemies, or about darkness, or about the valley of the shadow of death. But all that language is poetic, and it's given to us to give us words when our hearts don't know the words to the song we're trying to cry. We can pray those psalms. We can listen to others read those psalms while we doodle or sketch, and let the right side of our brain, where all the pain and sorrow lives, have a moment. We can write our own laments, or we can just list them. We can just name the losses to a friend or a loved one. We can invite our children to name the losses, and invite our children to name the graces and the gifts. But if we are only brave enough to identify the graces and the gifts, and we are not brave enough to name the losses, then we are not brave enough for this. But you are. You're brave enough for this. So this is me inviting you to make room, to make scheduled room, like in your planner, to grieve and lament sometimes, so that it doesn't compromise your heart all the time, and so that you can live honest all the time by being honest with that part sometimes. There are ways to get on and get forward, move ahead, to keep living, but that only happens if we're honest with all the parts of our hearts. So make room to grieve and lament, and then make room to live.